Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Module 3. We're really moving along now. I guess I should say, first of all, don't be frightened. It is still me. I had a bug and thought, you know, maybe the big Santa Claus beard wasn't the best look. And then I remembered, once I had it off, what my face looks like. So, mistakes happen. The big object for this week's work is to really dig into defining realism, and you'll have your first formal writing due at the end of the week doing just that. So rather than really strongly dealing with that as a subject here, I thought it was probably more important to talk about the tools you'll need to get this accomplished. Now, the courses at SNHU are designed by educational professionals, and they generally do a very good job of assessing the needs within any given module or within a course at large. However, the fact is that those who design the classes are not the same people as those who teach the classes, and sometimes our views differ a little bit on what is optimal. So this module is an example of that. For your readings this week, you're asked to take a look at a short piece by Charlotte Perkins Gilman discussing realism. Then you're asked to read over an article by William Roscoe Thayer, and he's talking about the same thing. And that's all well and good so far. However, the resources then simply provide links to websites for various authors who wrote during the era of the realists. And for the most part, these are just lists of links to bibliographies and articles. I get a real vibe that the message to students is, go figure it out. And I don't think that's appropriate for, well, three big reasons. First, there's simply no cause to make things more arcane or complex than they have to be. Second, it means that the articles from Gilman and Thayer, which, are right there in black and white for you, that you're definitely going to read, they're going to provide the major overview for you for thinking about realism. And in both cases, each author has a particular axe to grind about realism in one way or another. So I think that's probably going to give a skewed perspective from the start. The third reason, and it's the one I mentioned at the start, is you are responsible for coming up with a cohesive view of realism by week's end. So it only makes sense to get you the tools to do this. So I recommend spending some time looking at the linked resources in our reading list. They may be very well enlightening if you have time to pick through them and read some various things. All right, so do that. However, I also recommend that you take advantage of the info that is easily available directly in your textbook. On page 957, we have a short article by William Dean Howells. Howells is the acknowledged leader and chief proponent of realism, and he was so for over 30 years. So hearing what he has to say about the subject, it's like going straight to the horse's mouth. The excerpt article is only 3 pages long, and I think it would be really beneficial for you to take a look at. On page 961, our book presents an excerpt from Henry James' essay, The Art of Fiction. Again, this is only 2 pages of commentary on how to write and what writers are trying to do from the author who has remained the most famous and widely read writer of the realist period. Just like 2 weeks ago, I was watching The Haunting of Bly Manor on Netflix, and that's a 2020 adaptation of a James story. So, he's still very current. And lastly, on page 968, the text has A Plea for Romantic Fiction by Frank Norris. Now, Norris is generally regarded as a naturalist author, so this is him remarking on his view of how realism comes up short and doesn't do what, he thinks writing should, which is, of course, naturalism. Again, this is only 3 pages long. I think reading these will give you a wider range for seeing what those contemporary to the movement thought about it. This, in turn, will do a better job of getting you ready for doing your writing this week. It'll also give you, actual resources to reference. So rather than just depending on Gilman and her feminist perspective, and Thayer and his utterly, uh, you know, we'll say violently opposed perspective on realism. Also, don't forget that the editors of our text also provide commentary. So the intro to the section on realism and naturalism on page 955 boils things down, gives a good overview, and it might give you some helpful nudges for getting this stuff done. So, like I say, I just wanted to make sure that everybody is ready for getting this paper out. And I think these are more likely to be the helpful kinds of readings for getting that done. So I wanted to point them out. I can't, I'm not going to require that you do these, but I'll just say I would feel very much more comfortable getting this project done if I had these perspectives under my belt rather than just, what's come along so far. All right. So do that if you will. If you need to talk with me, if you have any questions, particularly since we have our first formal writing this week, by all means, get in contact with me and we will hash those out. All right. Otherwise, until next time, as always, adios.